Evening, everyone. We'll just give people a few minutes just to let people arrive in. Right, we're after 7 o'clock. We'll get going. Welcome again. Thanks to everyone for joining us for our latest Q&A series. This evening we are giving you a chance to speak to some of our leading athletes and get understand a little bit more about what they get up to day in, day out, how they've been coping with life under lockdown, how they've been sort of balancing their rowing, their studies, and other personal interests, and also sort of coping with pressure. So we've come up with 3 themes for the next sort of 90 minutes or so. I'd like to ask you to send in your questions using the sort of Q&A button at the bottom, and if you can put them in one of those 3 themes. If you have any other questions that don't come under any of those themes, feel free to put those in as pick them up at the end. As I said before, it's a good chance to be inquisitive, so feel free to ask lots of questions. We are recording the session this evening, and we'll make that available again to everyone afterwards. So 2 weeks ago, we heard from a panel of some of our professional coaches and got behind the scenes of some of our performance programs. Today, I'm delighted that we've got an all-star panel of Scottish and GB internationals. Fair to say that each of them are at different stages of their rowing journeys, but in terms of what they all have in common, they've all started their rowing careers within Scotland, and they've all sort of pursued similar goals in the sport. Hoping this evening that the different perspectives that they've got in terms of how they've transitioned through the sport will come through. And I'll very quickly introduce each of them. So first of all, we've got Perry Makovski. Perry is 21 years old, recently finished her environmental science undergraduate degree at University of Stirling. Started rowing at university just over 3.5 years ago, but only started to take the sport more seriously when she joined the World Class Start programme, Strathclyde Park Rowing Club, the following year. She's so far represented Scotland twice, first in 2018 and then again in 2019 when she won 2 gold medals, the women's double scull and quad, and helped the team towards the senior women's trophy. Last season, she also won the women's championship single scull, Scottish Rowing Championships, and also the chairman's trophy for the academic quad sculls at Henley Women's Regatta. Unfortunately, this has been our first season GB trialling system, and was ranked 2nd in the November trials, but unfortunately, due to obviously the coronavirus, didn't get a chance to take up her invite to the final trials that were due to take place last month. So that's Perry. We've also got Maddie with us this evening, Maddie Arlett. Maddie started rowing in the novice programme at Edinburgh University. She rowed for the Scotland rowing team in her 2nd year in the sport, before she decided to take up single sculling and trial for GB as a lightweight in her 3rd season. She competed for the GB under-23 team in both 2015 and 2016, and then went on to compete for the senior team in 2017 and 2018, while still studying and rowing at Edinburgh University. She decided to move away to England in 2018 to pursue rowing full-time and worked her way into the current Caversham setup with consistent trials performances. In 2019, she raced the lightweight singles at the World Championships and won a bronze medal. Finally making it onto the medal pontoon was definitely a highlight for her. Other highlights that she's listed have been winning the Scottish Championships in her single scull, all the Bucks medals with Edinburgh University, recently been named the Scottish Rowing Rower of the Year, and also getting a boat named after her at Edinburgh. Abigail Top. Abigail's 18 years old and is in her final year as a junior athlete. She rows for Robert Gordon University as part of the University of Rowing Aberdeen programme while studying sport and exercise science. She began her rowing career in 2013 as part of the Aberdeen Schools Rowing Association programme when she was just 12 years old. Like a lot of rowers, she got involved after her club was doing a fundraiser in her town, and they were handing out leaflets to join the club. And she's been in love with the sport ever since. She's been part of the Scotland rowing team at HIR twice. In 2017, when she was still only a J15 athlete, she was in the junior women's pair. The following year, she was part of the successful junior women's Cox's 4 in Cork, which went on to win gold. She's also represented Great Britain a total of 3 times at junior level. In Tokyo last year, she won the B final in the women's pair at the World Junior Championships, and that was with her ASRA teammate, Megan Hewson. She now has aspirations of making the GB Under-23 team, hopefully next summer. And finally, last but not least, Gavin Hora. Gavin's 22 years old, and he's currently studying Russian, I'll say it twice, at the University of Edinburgh. He started rowing all the way back in 2009 after growing up in Lochwinnock, where he had the choice between golf or rowing. We're obviously delighted that he's chosen rowing and not golf. And he did that after being dragged to every regatta that his sister was competing at the time. He then joined Castle Semple Rowing Club. However, it took him a few years to get up to a competitive level. He's since been a member of a number of different Scottish rowing clubs, including Glasgow Schools, Glasgow Academy, Heriot-Watt University, and most latterly Edinburgh University. He's represented Scotland in 2014, and then since then he's been on a bit of a journey with the GB team. And I hope he doesn't mind me saying this, I think he may be the first athlete that we're certainly aware of who's medalled at sort of junior under-23 and senior level in sort of consecutive years. So in 2015 he won a gold medal in Rio in the junior men's quads. He then went on to win gold in 2016 in the under-23 lightweight quads, and then in 2017 in Sarasota, he came agonisingly close to getting a 3rd gold back to back, got a silver, incredible silver in the men's senior lightweight quads. He's also competed at a number of World Cup events as well. So I'm sure you'll agree we've got a really experienced and talented panel. We wanted to kick off this evening because, like everyone at the moment, we are sort of stuck at home, and we're quite keen to hear from the panel as to how we've been coping in terms of life under lockdown. So I'm just gonna open that up to Gavin. I know you've been back home, Gavin, in Lochwinnock. How have you sort of been coping with life being stuck at home?
Yeah, so inevitably we've all kind of had to adapt to the lockdown situation, and there are going to be up days and down days and stuff like that. Probably due to because it's been an event that none of us have ever experienced before. But where I am over in Lochwinnock, which is just slightly west of Glasgow, like I'm sure a lot of people have probably competed at Castle Semple. It's a really nice area. There's obviously the lakes here. There's so many hills, so it means that you can do so many different forms of exercise, and it's in such a nice setting as well. So I feel as if I'm coping well right now. Obviously, as I said, up and down days, but I mean, so far so good. What about you, Perry, though?
Yeah, to begin with, obviously, I was still doing my dissertation and I've got my exams, so I kept busy with my dissertation. I sort of struggled a bit once I finished because I had a lot of spare time on my hands, but I've just been, I've started, well, our cross training, we've started to do, like, we've had the option to do whatever we fancy, really. So I've been doing quite a lot of running, which I've been enjoying, and quite a lot of Netflix, as you can imagine. But yeah, no, I've been enjoying, like, catching up with my friends over, we do like weekly quizzes and stuff, so I've been enjoying that.
And Abigail, how have things been up in Aberdeen?
Well, I live at home anyways whilst I'm studying, so not much has really changed apart from not being able to row. So it's kind of like a bit in the countryside. So it's quite nice here to like get out cycling and running because it's quite nice back roads. Yeah, just been kept busy, keeping up with friends and training. What about you, Maddie?
Yeah, it's similar to everybody really. To begin with, like I found it actually really hard. I didn't have any motivation to get on the rowing machine. I was like, nah, not doing it. But you know, as it kind of got on, I was like, okay, this is how it's going to be. I'm going to have to erg in this random place. Like, okay, and you just sort of started accepting it. But like, yeah, it's great because you can do other stuff that we don't really do, like go out for cycles and runs, and that's nice and refreshing. But it's also tough because like I think I get through training a lot better with my friends around me. So it's having to sort of figure out new ways to motivate yourself to get on the rowing machine in this heat as well. But yeah, it's all right.
So Gavin, we obviously know sort of at the start of the season you decided to sort of move away from rowing for a bit. What does a typical day look like for you now in lockdown when you don't, I guess, have that sort of pressure of, you know, I guess being part of a structured program?
Well, yeah, so obviously coming away from the programme at Edinburgh and rowing in general, it's meant that I've been able to do a couple of different types of sports. Like, for instance, before the lockdown, I was doing a lot of swimming with my flatmates and a little bit of running. But now, the typical day in lockdown, it's kind of aiming for one form of exercise a day, if two sometimes. And it's quite good because obviously there's the diversity. So running, cycling, home workouts. Like I feel as if everyone's kind of got onto these home workouts on YouTube and stuff just now. And hopefully, like we've got a bit of a blue-green algae issue down at the loch just now, but once that clears up, hopefully some open water swimming down there as well. So yeah, it's just kind of finding that diversity. I know that I've seen you as well, Perry. You're on the erg bike a lot, aren't you?
Yeah, I've been on the bike quite a lot because at the start of lockdown I had a bit of a injury, a bit of a weird one, like a loading issue on one of my fingers. So that meant I couldn't erg. So I had to take up quite a lot of running and on the bike. But I'm back to erging now, which is good. So you know, my typical day, it varies all the time, to be honest. I just aim to try and get a session done after breakfast and before lunch, and then get a second session done after lunch. But yeah, it varies, sort of just whatever I'm doing.
Abigail, what is your day looking like at the moment?
It just kind of changes day by day because I've started working again in a Mexican takeaway. So it just depends what days I'm working, but it's usually later on in the afternoon, so I'll try and get some sort of training done in the morning, see how I'm feeling, decide what training I'll do by that, get some coursework done, and just take it day by day, really. What about you, Maddie?
Yeah, I mean, I hope you all saw on my Instagram story. If you haven't watched it, then. But yeah, sort of wake up hopefully around about 7ish, 7:30. It's kind of sort of getting a bit later as we continue the lockdown. And like get going, stretch and mobilize. Or sometimes I'd do like a core session and a bit of a swim first thing, and then I'd have my breakfast. But I always try and fit in the rowing machine session earlier on in the day, otherwise motivation will go. And then so I'll generally try and fit 3 sessions in, so 2 before lunch, 1 after lunch, and then in the evening just try and relax and watch some Netflix.
So would you say at the moment, obviously before lockdown, all of you, obviously with the exception of Gavin, would have been part of a sort of program. You know, Perry, what does your training look like now compared to what it did before the lockdown?
Well, my weights program is stayed the same because I have weights. I have weights at home, so I've just been using them. But yeah, no, a lot more cross training. So yeah, I've been running. I've been using the bike quite a lot. But no, I'd say it's pretty much, apart from obviously not being on the water, it hasn't changed massively. Because I'm still able to get the training done. It's just on my own.
And are you the same, Abigail, in terms of, I guess, the equipment that you've got access to? Are you still able to sort of keep up a good amount of training?
Yeah, I'm still managing ergos every week, and I've got some weights at home, but the weights program's kind of changed a little bit because I've not got as much as what I'm used to. I've been out cycling quite a bit instead of getting the training on the water, and doing some running as well to change that as well.
Yeah, I'm similar. I've got like some weight stuff. My coach brought me some more weights, like Olympic weight stuff. So I now have a pretty good set. So I can sort of be similar, but the coach has had to make like, I don't know how many, 40 different individual programs to cater for all the different stuff. And then, yeah, I've got a rowing machine and stuff. So the only difference is really the water. But yeah, it's okay.
I'm right in saying, Maddie, you've got access, you're in a fortunate position, you got access to a pool for a bit of a recovery dip. I did notice that on your Instagram. So
yeah, I'm pretty lucky. And I got a bit injured as well during this lockdown. So the pool was actually a bit of a godsend.
It's been quite
I
handy.
was extremely happy about that. Yeah.
Quite handy for that. So then, just looking, I guess, at how you keep a track of that. I know a lot of athletes at the moment are using sort of platforms like Strava and stuff like that. Gavin, I know you're a big convert in Strava. You know, tell us a little bit about how you use that and what that does for your sort of motivation with regards to training.
Oh, well, I'll tell you one thing, like since going into lockdown and everything, I feel as if everybody and anybody is getting Strava nowadays. And it's good because it kind of makes you feel as if you're almost training together because everyone's seeing what everybody's doing. They're almost assessing what you're doing. And then obviously you can give people kudos for whether or not you think it's been a good session or not. So I think it's been fantastic because it's getting so many more people out of the house. And it's quite interesting to see the kind of, well, how their training differs from yours and stuff like that, what kind of runs, like a lot of local people near me as well. I kind of follow their accounts to get inspiration from their kind of runs, and it sounds stupid, we almost kind of make friends with these Strava people because it's kudos for kudos, and then you'll do one of their runs, they'll maybe have a look on your page, see the things you're doing. But I think it's fantastic because I know that Perry and Abby, you both have Strava, don't you? I'm not too sure about you, Maddie, actually.
I actually follow you, Gab, so
oh.
I'm quite disappointed that you don't follow me.
I probably do. I'm really, really bad at taking an eye and stuff like that. But no, I'll have to double check that. I'm sure I do, but no.
Gab, what's your favourite form of training at the moment now you don't actually row?
Well, I started the kind of quarantine isolation period off doing a lot of running. But now, so I managed to get my bike repaired thanks to a family in the village who ended up fixing the tires and stuff, and I've been cycling a lot more. But yeah, no, it's just all about just not sticking to one thing so you get bored of it, isn't it? Yeah. What about you as well? How are you finding it?
Well, me?
Yeah.
So I do use Strava in terms of that, but I do keep a training diary as well, so I only end up filling it in like once a week. I always end up forgetting and have to like catch up everything. But it does help because I get to look back and say I have an erg test coming up, kind of can see how prep went for it before. If like I'm like, oh man, that prep piece was horrible, I can check back and be like, oh, it's fine. That's what I did for that one and I still PB'd or something. So it's really good for that. I mainly just keep track of my rowing machine sessions because my weights coach is very good at keeping track of all the weights we lift, and she sort of gives us set weights. So yeah, what about you, Perry?
Yeah, I just recently started using Strava as well. Like I downloaded it just before lockdown, so that's what I've been using to log all my sessions. And I have like a separate app that I use for weights, just for all my lifts and that. So yeah, I have a training program that I keep track of everything.
Abigail, are you the same? Do you use something like Gavin seems to be following you anyway in Strava, so you must be logging your meters.
Yeah, I've been using the Strava app because, well, the University of Aberdeen program made like a group for it, so we've all been like logging onto it and just seeing what each other's up to. I use the Concept 2 logbook as well for ergos, just to see like how much meters I've been doing for lockdown. and I got a polar belt as well at the start of lockdown. So I use the Polar app as well, which is quite good.
Yeah, I use Polar Flow as well. It's quite good because it tracks like your rest and heart rate when you're sleeping as well. Because I use that to track how I'm coping with training and stuff as well.
I guess it leads me in nicely to my next question, which is, obviously you're all, when you're in your normal rowing environment, you're used to seeing your coach on a near sort of daily basis. But obviously at the moment we're not able to do that. What sort of support have you been getting from your coaches? And you probably need to say something nice, because I know a number of them are tuned in this evening. So
You're probably best starting as this one.
Yeah, so Tom's pretty good. I just message him probably too often, but I just fire him on my scores and stuff, and he's like, he just gives me feedback when I ask for feedback, and we've also been doing every Sunday we have like a weekly Google Meet chat where we just like go over how trainings went the previous week, so that's how I've just been keeping in touch. So yeah, so it's pretty much the same. Like I contact them sort of every couple of days or so.
And Abigail, how often are you hearing from Ruiers at the moment?
I just message him like every time that I do an ergo, and it gives me really good feedback and like how to improve for the next session. So it's probably like in contact quite a few times a week. Yeah.
Have you noticed a difference, sort of, Maddie, in terms of, I guess, the support that you're getting, as part of the World Class program, I guess, through lockdown? Obviously, we can't see our coaches at the moment, but do you still feel that you've got that support available?
Yeah, we have, like most of you guys, we have a weekly meeting with like the group of lightweights and our coach, and then I also have a one-on-one with my coach every week. And like it's almost like, I don't know, we obviously see each other every day at training, so they can see us directly. If like we're struggling, they can be like, okay, it's this session, maybe you calm down a bit or something. So that's meaning like we're having to take on a lot more responsibility and make our own decisions and be fine with that. So in terms of like the weekly meeting,
I think we're just losing you. I don't know. You still there, Maddie?
oh, hello.
Yeah, you're back. I guess you're back.
Oh, sorry, Wi-Fi bad. I don't know when you'll leave, but in terms of like the whole group meeting, it's quite nice to know when somebody's having a good week or when they're having a bad week, because you can sort of relate. We don't usually know that at training. We all sort of just struggle through. So that's been nice to talk to everybody as well as just your coach.
Yeah, I think, again, it leads me in nicely to my next question, which is, I think through the lockdown, one of the things that everybody has seen is that I think as a nation, we've been connecting a lot more with friends and family. There's been lots of Zoom calls with people that we maybe don't see as much as we normally do. Gavin, how have you been sort of staying connected with your friends and family during this period?
Well, obviously, I'm living at home with my mum and my sister just now. But for instance, obviously, I have all my friends from university, from rowing itself. And obviously, I lived in a flat with 3 other rowers, James Temple, Matt Curtis, and James Doran. So it's things like that. We've got group chats on Facebook. There's WhatsApp groups. Obviously, in the village, there's a couple of my friends who were now allowed to do socially distant training together, stuff like that. So it's fantastic. So you don't feel as alone now, but obviously equally it's not the same as meeting up for instance, my flatmates and such. But hopefully in months to come, we'll see what comes of the rules and everything. But I feel as if I'm getting on quite well speaking with them all. What about you, Perry, as well? It must be strange not being at Strathclyde Park training with everybody.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty much the same. I just use like group chats and stuff, and then like I said, me and my friends have a weekly quiz. Like one of us organises like there's a quiz master type thing, and yeah, I've just been. Actually, the other day I met up with one of my friends for a social distance picnic, which was really nice to actually see another human being. So, yeah.
Abigail, what about yourself? How have you been sort of connecting with people?
I've been doing like a Facebook video call with my family every day, like my granny and my auntie and cousins and stuff, which has been quite nice. And I connect with my friends through like Zoom calls like every week, and we just message like daily, to be honest. What about you, Maddie?
Yeah, same. Just the classic sort of FaceTimes. And I've started to meet up with a few of them now, like obviously staying away, but rules seem to be easing, so can meet up, kind of.
Yeah. So I guess another thing I've noticed through lockdown is people have been sort of, developing a lot of new skills. I know Adele at the weekend was sort of trying to get me into baking, home baking, which I failed miserably at. What sort of new hobbies or skills have you acquired during lockdown, Gav?
Well, so obviously where I live, as I said, there's a lot of hills. So I just took up some fell running. So I bought some fell running shoes because there's loads of trails and everything, and it's quite nice to do that. So just going out, trying up that kind of stuff. Another one is that I've actually started learning a little bit of Georgian language. So it's the one with the kind of funny squiggles as letters. So I'm currently on to learning the alphabet just now and like the basics for that. So it's coming along.
So what languages do you not speak at the moment? Because it's probably worth you clarifying for everyone all the other languages I know you've studied.
What did you say, sorry?
What other, it's probably worth you clarifying with everyone the other languages that you've learned in the past. I know you speak quite a few, don't you?
Well, so I did a little bit, well, obviously everyone in Scotland either does like Spanish or French and stuff like that. And then obviously I'm doing Russian for my university degree. I did a little bit of Ukrainian when I was younger. I learned the Greek alphabet and like a couple of phrases for when we went to Greece like a few years ago. But I mean, not obviously extensive speaking or anything. But yeah, I just thought Georgian would be quite interesting, so I'd give that a bash.
So Perry, can you beat any of those languages, or have you any other hobbies that you've working on?
Nah, sadly not. I guess you could say running is a hobby, because I did quite a bit. Like I used to, before I rode, I used to run. Like I did athletics. I've also been doing a bit of baking. I've been obsessed with making, like Reese's Pieces. I've made like 3 batches of like homemade Reese's Pieces. So
That sounds so good.
They're not really good. That's what apart from that, I've not really been doing no more new hobbies anyway.
Abigail, anything for you that sort of stands out?
Well, my mum's just been trying to teach me how to cook a bit more. Been going on more family walks, been cycling a bit more, just like not just within the village, but like try and find new places to go to, and just stuff like that.
Maddie, you've obviously been away from home for a while. What other skills have you sort of picked up during the recent lockdown period?
So I got a fun one actually. I recently bought like a beginner surfboard. So the past 2 weekends on a Sunday I've headed to the beach in Bournemouth and attempted to catch some waves, which has been super fun. Not a great rest day, I have to say. It does wipe me out a bit, but it just gets you away. Actually so fun. And then like a sort of bit of tennis. But it's been the beach, different scenery, refreshing.
I think we just lost you there for a little bit. I think your broadband's maybe dipping out a wee bit. I think we picked up tennis and surfing and a few other bits and bobs. Sounds like you've been keeping yourself busy.
Oh. Have you lost me again?
That's you back now.
Oh, it says my internet connection is unstable. That doesn't sound good.
In terms of obviously the period where we're stuck at home, what's your sort of lockdown go-to meal, Gavin, during that period?
Well, obviously, I was not renowned for my cooking skills through university or anything. Like most of my meals were either in restaurants or at fast food joints, etc. But obviously, being at home and stuff, they've all shut down. So I've had to end up taking up taking cooking back up again. Like, and that was the last time I properly cooked for myself was back in 2015, 2016. So yeah, I've kind of gone back to the basics and trying like meat with rice and just kind of veg and stuff like that. Like, I will try kind of fancy stuff from cooking for my family and stuff, like stuff from scratch. But like, if I'm just whipping up something for dinner and stuff, it'd probably be just like basic meat, like rice and then veg, as I said. So nothing too adventurous just yet. What about you, Perry? I'm sure you're much better than what I can provide.
Nah, I'm actually awful at cooking for myself. For the past like week or so, we recently got a new barbecue, so we've literally just been having barbecues for lunch and dinner. Yeah, so that's all my diet's been consisted of is grilled chicken.
Grilled chicken, sweet corn in the cob.
Oh yeah, corn on the cob.
Abigail, what about yourself? What's your nutrition been like through the period?
Well, obviously I live at home, so my mum's still cooking for me, which is quite good. I've tried doing the like Gordon Ramsay's 10-minute meals, which are really good for dinner, and yeah, that's about it.
And Maddie, your sort of culinary skills?
I haven't actually heard of the Gordon Ramsay thing. That's quite cool.
Yeah, it's on his
like
Instagram.
Oh,
It's like every week he does a different meal. It's really good.
I might start following that. I've only heard of like Joe Wicks, but I'm staying with 6 people. We have 6 people in this house at the moment. So when you do cook, it is a bit of a mission. And I made the mistake of the first time cooking. I made like chicken chorizo veg skewers with like a nice glaze, and then I made my own flatbreads and this big crunchy salad. And like every time it's my turn to cook, they're like, "Oh, can you cook that meal?" And I'm like, "Oh, it literally took me like 4 hours. Don't have time for that." But so that's basically, I've cooked that about 4 times this lockdown. But if I had my choice, it would be an easy fajita meal, super quick.
So you do sort of group cooking? Is that the way it works? You all kind of take it in turns? Is that?
Yeah. So we all sort of take it in turns to do like one shop a week, and then we'll all pick a day to cook a meal.
I think it's got its advantages, though, I would say at times.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, I only have to cook once a week, which is pretty great. It's just a big shift.
Yeah, it's a big shift.
Yeah.
Quite keen to hear what everyone's been sort of watching on Netflix, because when you get onto the weekend and into the evenings and you're running out of things to watch, what's been your sort of what's been on your list, Gavin, in recent weeks?
Oh, to be fair, at the start of lockdown, I was watching what everyone was on, and that was Tiger King. And I can't say I finished that TV show in about 7 hours, and it's about 6 hours or 7 hours long. So it was literally a back-to-back kind of situation. But after that, like, I didn't really get into the whole Netflix thing, because obviously it's been really weird that the weather's been quite nice up here in Scotland for a long period. So it's really just been getting out and about and doing that kind of stuff. But I mean, I'm getting to that point now where I kind of like to get back into the Netflix and get a binge watch on the go. So I think I'll probably be going on tonight to have a look and see what there is. I'm sure you've probably got some shows as well you could show me, Perry. So anything you've been watching that would be good.
Yeah, I've not watched Tiger King yet. So I need to get on that. But I've watched quite a lot. More so on Amazon Prime. I watched New Amsterdam. I'm on Grey's Anatomy just now, which is 16 seasons long, so that'll keep me going.
I'll take it to the end of quarantine pretty much.
Yeah, I know. I also watched The Last Dance as well on Netflix. That was really good.
I watched that. You stole my answer. That was actually so good. I loved it.
It was so good, yeah. And then, of course, Normal People as well. I think everyone's talking about that. I think that's everything I've watched. But yeah.
Abigail, what's been on your TV up there? Or have you been working and training too much that you haven't been watching anything?
Nah, there's always time for Netflix. I watched Last Dance as well, which I really liked. I've just recently started watching Selling Sunset on Netflix, which is like about the real estate in LA, which is quite interesting. And we also did like a binge watching of the Star Wars movies, which is quite good.
I literally just started watching Selling Sunset as well. It's like it's perfect mix between actual watching like nice properties, and then drama between the girls.
It has a lot of drama in it.
Yeah. And I watched The Last Dance, which is awesome. I love a good sports documentary. And then I'm back into Ozark. Sort of seem to be able to watch that I've sort of watched it most summers. So that's a great one to watch.
And with all that, I guess with all the TV, how do you kind of stay focused? You know, have your sort of sleep patterns sort of changed at all during lockdown? Are you still being quite disciplined with sort of getting to sleep at night, Gavin?
I feel as if you can kind of capitalize on the extra sleep at this time. Because obviously if uni and everything isn't in the way, or for instance a regimented routine, you can afford to wake up a little bit later. I know that you obviously wake up still early, Maddie. The early bird catches worm and all of that. But for me, I've been finding I've been waking up just a little bit later. But yeah, I enjoy waking up early. So sometimes I kind of kick myself a bit and then try and get up in the early hours. But we'll see what comes of it.
Perry,
I was going to say I've been waking up later because I've been going to bed a bit later. I've not been setting an alarm. I've just been waking up, which is probably not a good thing to do. But I don't take any naps or anything. I'm not a napper, so I enjoy my sleep. Yeah.
I've been the same as Perry. I've just stopped setting alarms since lockdown and just been waking up naturally, which is probably around like 8-9 o'clock, and going to bed a bit later as well.
Maddie, you're sort of, Gavin was suggesting your routine was maybe slightly earlier start. Is that right?
Yeah, sorry if my Wi-Fi goes again. Seems a bit dodgy again. But I've definitely been waking up later than usual.
It's the problem with living with 6 flatmates. They're probably all on Netflix. That's the problem.
Right, exactly. That's the thing. All watching it without me. I've been waking up later than usual, and usually if I'm at Caversham, I'm real strict with my bedtimes because we're waking up really early. So I'm definitely less strict with like when I'm going to bed, because you know when The Last Dance was on, you get a bit distracted. So I'm not as like stressed to get up at a certain time, like I have to get up by 7 or something. Like I can sleep in a little bit, but I still need to try and get some sessions done. So I'm still trying to keep some routine to my days.
Just looking at the chat there, I see Ian Summerside's also been watching The Last Dance.
Yeah.
I have to say, I think I'm about halfway through, but I'm sort of restricting myself to just sort of one a night at the moment, because I think could end up taking over. But no, I have to agree. Very good. So just sort of pause there. That's sort of the end of our sort of chat around sort of life in lockdown. Just a reminder for everyone who's watching, if you have any questions that you want to ask the panel this evening, if you just want to use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, and feel free to pop those in, and we'll try our best to answer those. We're going to move on now to our next section. And we know that the life of a rower, there's a lot of sort of conflicting demands on your time, particularly whenever you happen to be potentially a student rower, and you've got to sort of juggle your studies and your rowing. So Perry, I'm going to come to you sort of first. How have your studies been affected by the coronavirus? So you sort of mentioned at the beginning that you just sort of finished your degree at Stirling Uni. How have the last couple of months been different to what you would have expected?
Yeah, so obviously all my lectures and stuff, they move online. So I've just been listening, well, at the start of lockdown, I was just listening back to the lectures. But no, hopefully, well, I'm hoping that they've not affected my grades or anything. I've only had one exam, and that was a 24-hour exam. So we got given the questions, but it was like 2 different sections. We just had to write 2 essays, and that was reasonable. But no, they've been all right. Trying to contact my dissertation supervisor was annoying because he's so slow at replying to emails. So yeah, apart from that, it was all right.
And
No, I've kind of found it as well. It's like I'm only in second year just now because of the way that I've changed courses. But all of our second year end of exams were cancelled. So we kind of got to one of the weeks and the lecturers said to us, "Oh, next week you won't be here." So we were kind of all like, "Oh, okay then." Like, how are we going to work this out? But we had all assumed that we'd be doing exams online because that's what I gather the third years and the fourth years are doing. But we've just been told, yeah, no exams. So essentially our uni just stopped there. A little bit annoying though, because I was meant to be going on my year abroad as of September. But we've been told that because of the situation in other countries as well, and in particular with the country that I'm meant to be going to, which is worse than the United Kingdom, we've been told that semester one will be online, with the potential for semester two to be online. So a bit of a surprise not to have exams for second year. But yeah, it's been a bit of a weird end to it. What about you, Abby, though, up in Aberdeen? How have you found it?
It's been quite different. Like, our assessments got put online as well, and we had online lectures. But we also had our assessments on like a Zoom call, so it was like face to face with your lecturer, which is quite weird. But that's just been about it.
That's the thing, is really weird because we didn't even get any lectures online or anything. It was literally just the end of the year. So it feels as if we're kind of on a big summer holiday just now, but we'll see what happens when it comes to third year.
Yeah, you can never keep students happy. You get exams and you're not happy, and you don't have any exams and you're not happy. It's
oh, I'm happy. Trust me on that.
So one of the challenges, I guess, with rowing is this sort of balancing the amount of hours that we would normally have in a typical week. So are you able to give our listeners just a bit of a perspective, I guess, on what a typical week looks like? So that sort of balance between the number of hours you were maybe training, the number of hours you were sort of studying. So Perry, what your sort of week look like?
Yeah, before lockdown, well, like I'm still probably training the same amount of hours that I was before. I actually feel like I have more free time now than I did before lockdown, just because I'm not having to like travel to training, and just like time spent like after I've done a session, like I feel like I can get my recovery in better as well, because like I'm not having to like the kitchen's like just like right here, so I feel like I have a lot of time to like free time to spend with myself, and if anything I've actually probably studied more as well because I've had more free time, so that helped with exams and stuff that I had in my dissertation as well. I could get it done, but yeah, I'd say my week training hours hasn't really changed much. Yeah.
For me, obviously I'm not studying, so I can tell you about just the full-time, what my week looks like as a full-time athlete. And that's like basically like Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Fridays, we have 3 sessions a day, and that's usually like a long row in the morning, a rowing machine session, and then a weight session. And like generally 2 of those days have some UT1s in there, so something that's a little bit harder but not like a full-on intensity session. And then Wednesdays and Saturdays we'll have 2 session days, so that's when we'll do like a slower row in the morning, and then the second session will be like hard intensity pieces, and Sundays we usually have off unless we're on a training camp. So, and kind of like what Perry was describing sort of made me think of like that's pretty much like a training camp, like everything's just right there for you, so that's quite good. In fact, probably going to be training slightly better.
Yeah, obviously, like when I stepped away from rowing, it meant that I wasn't following that routine or anything. So for me, it was literally a case of just making sure that I was committed enough to do a bit of training every day. So as I said, I tried the triathlon team a little bit. I mean, I think I stuck that out for a couple of weeks, but then I found that I wasn't too strong with my swimming, so I wanted to get better at my swimming. So by the end of my time at university this semester, I was going to the pool over in the St. Leonard's land gym probably about 4 times a week, sometimes with my flatmates, sometimes on my own, and that was in the evenings, because in the middle of the day it was more the uni work and stuff. But again, we were very fortunate where our flat was, so it was only really a 10-minute walk to the gym, 5-minute walk to uni, so it was all pretty centered around our flat anyway. So yeah, it was obviously, as the work kind of ramped up towards the end of the semester, I cut down on the training as much, but seeing as now we're in quarantine, I feel as if my training's kind of gone up a bit more in terms of what I'm doing every day. Like, I'm sure everyone's probably finding that as well. What about you, Abby? Like, are you finding that, or are you finding it less, or what?
It's kind of hard to say, because I don't know, but my week before like whole lockdown happened, I had classes Wednesday to Friday, and then I was working Monday and Tuesdays. So our weight sessions are in the morning, and we had our ergos at night. And when we had our water sessions, the river in Aberdeen's tidal. So you're just trying to fit the water sessions like between your classes, like throughout the week. And then at the weekend, it just depended when the tides was. But that's about it.
So I guess with all the challenges that you guys have got, you know, how do you manage all those conflicting demands in your time, you know, Perry, to make sure, because at the end of the day, you obviously want to be successful on the water, but you're rowing, you're also wanting to, you know, get the best possible degree that you can. How do you manage all of those demands?
Well, what I like to do is I like to know what my week looks like in advance. That way I can plan ahead, like plan when I'm going to spend time working, doing uni work or something. Well, before lockdown, I actually had a part-time job as well, so I had that to sort of plan in as well. But yeah, definitely I like to plan, especially when I have assignments and stuff due. I like to get started on them like sort of as soon as I can, so that even just do it like a couple hours here and there, so that I'm not cramming it all in last minute. Just so I feel organised if I sit down and sort of plan out my week ahead.
Maddie, obviously your sort of week slightly different, I guess, or your demands are slightly different, but I guess for you, it's about making sure you're maximising your recovery. So yeah, how do you sort of make the most of your time across the week?
I think, yeah, as Perry was saying, like planning for me is definitely key. I like things to I like to know when I'm doing things. So yeah, it's just planning that and trying to stick to it. And it's easy here as well, because I can get distracted quite easily with somebody to begin with. Like my girlfriend's sister and fiance came and they do CrossFit, so I was just getting dragged into all their fun sessions, and I was trying to do my sessions as well, and it was just all getting too much. So I think having a plan and trying to stick to it, and just to help recovery, that's kind of how I'm going about it now.
Gavin, when you were sort of rowing, how did you go about, you know, juggling all the different balls?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, structure was pretty integral part of training and having uni side by side. Whether it was like at school, we were always given a plan which would fit in with our training and our studying. And the same at university, like whether like the coach was giving out the training plan a couple of weeks in advance, you'd be able to see what kind of sessions you'd be doing. Obviously you had set times or whenever. So it was quite good to kind of structure it that way. Like, you could always put an hour here for a bit of revision, you'd know when your classes were, you'd know when your training was. So having it down on paper as well was quite good, just because you'd be able to see what was coming up that day, and it's almost so in your head, then obviously you have to be the person enforcing that. But definitely having a structure there, that helped me. I remember, Perry, obviously you were saying that you like to do your assignments and the work for it in advance. Like, I feel as if I've done it kind of both ways. Like, the first year that I went to university back in 2015, I would leave everything to the last minute. Like, it was pretty bad, and my assignments were going in like literally at the very, very last minute. But as the years have gone on, I've understood how important it is to try and almost jumpstart the exam, or not the exam, sorry, the essay or whatever. And now I try and aim to get it in maybe a week in advance if possible, just because then it kind of means that stress is out of the way, and if you've got a stressful training session or whatever coming up, you can then devote all your attention to that rather than external influences.
Abigail, how have you sort of found the jump from, you know, leaving school to then obviously starting college and managing that sort of transition and the demands of your time?
I'd say like the institute has been like quite a big part of helping me structure like what I'm doing. So the performance lifestyle part of the institute, they gave me like a weekly planner and a monthly one. So on the monthly one, I was putting like major deadlines, competitions, I don't know, like hard sessions. And then on the weekly one, it was like hour by hour, so I knew what I was doing, which was really good. Like just having structure for every week, knowing like what I needed to do, and making sure that all my assessments were done on time and stuff. That was really helpful.
I think when I was at uni, and everything I remember things sort of coming at me at once. Like trials would come, and then I'd have deadlines, and then I'd have exams, and just like I just remember eventually I was just like, just don't be afraid to ask for help. Like people are willing to help. And it was one time randomly, I think I had to try and plan to make weight. I had this deadline I needed to get in, and I just went to my supervisor. I was like, honestly, I think I'm gonna have a breakdown. I can't do this anymore. And it was so weird. He came back to me and he was like, I completely understand where you've been. I went to under 23s for rowing, and I was a lightweight in the men's pair or something. And I was like, what? Afterwards, me and my friends were like looking him up, being like, whoa. So it's weird. Like some people can relate to it, and then there's extensions you can get, and there's ways around it. So, but you don't know it until you ask for the help. So there's definitely something that I picked up after uni.
No, I think it's a really good point, Maddie, and I'm glad Abigail mentioned as well about, you know, some of the tools are out there and some of the support you've had, because there is a lot of academic flexibility for student athletes now, but a lot of the time you have to just make sure that you go out and ask for it, and don't be afraid to ask for it. And I guess that was sort of going to lead me on to thinking about, you know, have any of you at any point sort of missed an academic deadline because of rowing without necessarily going and asking for that help? Has that ever been a situation anyone's found themselves in?
Well, I've never missed a deadline, but I've quite often had to ask for an extension, especially because I'm on the World Class Start programme. I go to camps quite often, and that whole weekend, that takes up a full weekend. So yeah, I've always had to ask for a deadline, and like the uni Stirling were really good. They would give me a extension no problem. So yeah, they're really helpful that way.
Yeah, that was the same for me. Like I had to ask for extensions loads, and they always can hand out a week super easy. It's when it has to be a little bit longer than that they start to question. But that's when Scottish Rowing comes in and helps. That's when like Colin can come help and speak to people a bit higher up. And so like there are ways around it, but again, you have to sort of look for the help to help other people understand what you're having to work through.
Yeah, I always wish that I had used the extension service at university or whatever, because obviously I hadn't missed any of my exams or anything, but we had an online exam once for economics, and I found myself doing it on a bus down to trials in my first year of uni, and it was like 2 hours until the deadline, and I'm sitting there in the back doing this thing online, trying to get my Wi-Fi on my phone connected up to my laptop, and it was a bit shambolic. Suffice to say, it wasn't my best grade or anything, but yeah, if I had that extension, it probably would have helped.
Abigail, any sort of any challenges with missing deadlines or anything because of rowing? Obviously, you had a busy year last year with GB Junior trials and things like that. You would have been away from home quite a lot. How did you sort of get around that? Was it with the support of Performance Lifestyle, etc.?
Last year was quite difficult because like we went on the Spain Junior Potential Camp in December, which was right before prelims. So it was just like a case of in the breaks when you weren't training, you were just having to study, and then you were at trials a lot just before exams, and we had Munich in between exams. It's just like finding every spare time that you had to study, which is sounding difficult, but like it was just that times you just want to sit down, like watch TV. That's times that you need to be studying or asking for help for something.
So if we sort of look outside of rowing, obviously we've spoken a bit about our studies. how do you guys sort of unwind? How do you relax whenever you're not involved in rowing?
I quite like to, well, I suppose it's different for everyone, but I just watch TV. I'm quite lazy that way. I just like to lie down. And I unwind by, like, I catch up with my friends. I like hang out with my friends. Even just going for, like, especially now in lockdown, obviously you can go for, well, when it was only one exercise a day, going out for your walk, that was really a good time to, like, unwind. And that's what I like to do to take the steam off.
Yeah, I find the best way to take my mind off things is to hang out with people who I'm really close to. I find like they are able to take my mind away from whatever I'm stressing about or thinking about. So that's pretty good. And yeah, like I like going for walks or going to cinema when we can, or just, I guess, Netflix at the moment. So just a bit of something that's going to help me not think about rowing for a bit.
Yeah, I think that really helps as well, because obviously sometimes rowing can be quite all-consuming. So it was really just trying to get that break away from it sometimes. Not that it's a bad thing, it's just sometimes you want to kind of clear your mind, and it's almost quite a good reset for the next day of training. Like for me, I would always go for the meals, go out for a meal with my friends, or as I said, to the cinema. Sometimes I'd just go out a walk, and I'd find myself walking around Edinburgh for like an hour and a half. And you're thinking, where the heck did I get to? How did I get here? Because your mind just ends up going away and doing its own thing. And then sometimes, like if I'm kind of in the mood, in the evenings, what I would do is I'd sit and something as stupid as watching funny video compilations and just try and get a good belly laugh in once a week or something. It's just whatever gets you through, isn't it? So it's quite good.
Yeah.
I'm the same with that. I have 3 sisters and I get along with them really well. So I like to spend time with them, usually go to the cinema or go and drive somewhere and do something. But I like to spend time with like friends that are also outside of rowing, because you're getting like conversations in that's not just about rowing. So your mind's taken off of it.
And how important is it that you actually protect that time for those other interests in your week? Because there is a danger that if you're not training, you're studying, or if you're not studying, you're sleeping. How important is it that as part of that planning phase, that you protect those times to do the things that you enjoy doing?
Yeah, I think it is really important. I sort of learnt that when I was writing my dissertation, because I had so much work to do, and then I had training on top of that. Like I felt like if I didn't have that time to myself, then I probably would have had a breakdown or something. But and I think it is really important just to switch off, like whether it be switch off from rowing, switch off from your studies, because it's better for your mental health anyway. So
yeah, definitely. I think it's something that's really hard to do though, because I feel like if you want to be good at something, it's going to be on your mind all the time, or if you're passionate about something, it's going to be there always. You're always going to think about it, like, how did that session go? Okay, now what have I got tomorrow? So it's definitely not an easy thing to do, but it's obviously really important to have other things going on in your life, so you're not, so if something bad does happen with rowing, it's not going to absolutely crash you and kill you. You have something, and it helps you see the bigger picture, that okay, it's not everything, there is something else that in my life that's making me happy as well. So definitely making time for something else is super important, just to keep perspective.
Yeah, I always found, like, at the start of my kind of rowing career, especially when I started to compete for Scotland and Great Britain, I would constantly overthink competitions, competing, training, stuff like that. And it would kind of really get to my head, to the point that was all I was thinking about. Then you'd be going into university where you're potentially being assessed quite frequently. So there's always that pressure there. Whereas if you kind of put that bit of time to the side and you think, right, this is where I'm going to take time to, I don't know, read a book, do whatever, see my friends. It's good, because as the years went on, I found that was actually quite important, especially with trying to keep your head clear, and it allowed you to focus more on whatever was coming up the next day, for instance, in your training or in your studies. And it also makes you kind of like a much nicer person as well, and not as kind of nippy.
And I've also definitely found, like, I found it hard to allow myself that, because I come back from training and I'm like, I need to rest. This tomorrow, I can't possibly do anything else. Are you kidding me? But then I'm like, if I've managed to get away for at least an hour in the evening, I come back a lot more refreshed, and I've got, you know, something else on my mind, talk to my friends about it in the morning. So yeah, I just wanted to add that little bit in.
I totally agree. Like, I think setting aside this free time is really important, because like we do the sport because we enjoy it, and like you don't want to take that enjoyment away from it. So if you have this free time, you're taking away the pressure from yourself, and just, yeah, you're making sure that you're still enjoying the sport as well, not just overthinking every training session, every competition.
And Abigail, you kind of mentioned earlier about sort of, you know, friends from rowing backgrounds, non-rowing backgrounds. It's a question I get asked a lot. Are all your friends rowers? Harry, is that, you know, do you hang out with rowers outside of rowing, or do you have another social circle that,
No, I do hang out with other rowers outside of rowing. But I'd say I still stay at home, so all my friends actually live like very close. Like I'll stay in Lenzie. Lenzie's quite small, so all of my friends, like the friends I went to high school with, I'm still like best friends with them. So we're all like very close still, which is good.
Yeah, I have to admit, all my friends are pretty much from rowing. Not that proud of it. No, they're great. No, I've always, I don't know, I've lived with people from rowing at uni, and then now I live with some girls from the squad, well, before lockdown. But my girlfriend's actually not rower, and she's got nothing to do with rowing, and her family have no idea. So, and her friends have no idea even more. So it is refreshing. But then you have to always have those conversations like, oh, what's rowing? Is it all arms? And you're like, yeah, there's some legs. So yeah, my friends are from rowing.
I've got quite a varied group of friends actually. Like, obviously I live with rowers and stuff, but I went to two high schools when I was younger, and they weren't near to the house or anything. So obviously we ended up keeping in contact with friends from both of those. I went to two universities as well, so I've got two different groups of friends as well from the degrees I've done. I've also kind of been a part of 4 university degrees before I've chopped and changed between them all. So as you can imagine, I got quite good at making friends quite easily. So yeah, obviously I've got friends from all of that, but I would say obviously with rowing, because of the shared experiences, a lot of your closer friends will potentially be from a rowing background. I know in particular with my flatmates, like we're all very close friends because of what we've managed to do, whether that be through rowing or even just kind of going out and about in Edinburgh.
I'd say the same. I'd say I'm more close with people from rowing, just because we share that common interest of doing the sport. But I'm also friends with like people that I used to row from Azra, but they don't row anymore. Yeah.
So Perry, you mentioned that you obviously finished your sort of degree recently, starting uni. What are your sort of professional ambitions, sort of longer term?
Well, yeah, I'm hoping to. Well, I actually had no idea what I wanted to do until fairly recently. So I want to maybe go into along the lines of environmental protection, sort of similar to my undergrads. I've actually applied to do a master's at Edinburgh, so we'll see what happens.
Whoa, here we go. Oh, sorry, yeah. I guess I think I'm umming and ahhing between 2 different routes. One is sort of to go back into the sport and maybe become an S&C coach, or even like coaching, or, you know, work back with rowing, or something else, I don't know. Or my other route is going into the army as an officer, is sort of my 2 umming and ahhings.
Is that something that you've always wanted to do, the sort of army officer side of things, or is that?
Yeah, I sort of, like, when I was at uni, I sort of started to apply, thinking I'd maybe be able to do it, like sort of get in and then defer my entry. But then obviously I had too many things going on, so I had to, you know, pie one of them. But my brother's in the parachute regiment and he loves it. So I think it's right up my street. It's whether I want to be in something that's going to sort of lock me down again. I can't be too free and go surfing randomly. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I think I'd probably like to go and work for the Foreign Commonwealth Office or in the Diplomatic Corps or for GCHQ, more just because I'm doing a language degree. I enjoy languages and I feel as if I'd be able to kind of fit in quite well with that kind of group. So, and I've also had the chance to speak to a couple of people who work in that field, and they were telling me about their kind of lifestyle, hopping from country to country depending where they're placed, and I think that would just be right up my street. So yeah, I think that's what I kind of hope to go for.
I think those languages will definitely serve you well, Gavin, and getting around the globe, eh?
Yeah, exactly.
Abigail, I know you've obviously just started out sort of college recently, and you know, what are your sort of thoughts longer term? Where have you?
I mean, I like the idea of becoming a rowing coach at some point, but I haven't really thought that far ahead yet.
Haven't got that far ahead. Okay. Well, we'll certainly be keen to have a chat with you about that at some point. Hopefully not for a wee while yet. Hopefully there's a bit more rowing still to go. Obviously, what sort of attributes do you think rowing as a sport has given you that I guess will help you be successful in your choice of career going forward?
I'd definitely say self-discipline, because I feel like if you aren't disciplined, then you won't really get very far within the sport. Just like that sort of sense of not giving up and persevering, because you do have to make a lot of sort of sacrifices almost when it comes to training, and because you dedicate so much time to it. Sort of self-discipline. Yeah, definitely, I'd say that's an attribute that I've learned from the sport.
Yeah, I think I've sort of learned to control my emotions a lot. I remember I used to get really frustrated and angry learning rowing. Like poor John took a lot of brunt of my my emotions, but I definitely, rowing can be such a roller coaster. Like one day you can do great in a piece and you're like, yeah, I'm all right, and then the next day you do awful and you're like, oh gosh, this sport might not be for me, like what am I doing? But if you let yourself go up and down constantly, it's just exhausting, and like you'll just burn out. So you know, and I've learned to control them and not get too high or not get too low, and it just means I've just become super consistent, and I feel like getting a job outside, I feel like I'm be a really reliable person to just get the job done at a really high standard and not be fazed too much by things going on. What about you, Gav?
I feel perseverance really, because obviously if something doesn't go to plan in rowing, you always have to try and find a solution to it, whether it be, I don't know, if a race doesn't go to plan, finding out how you try and improve yourself next time. But I think in obviously the world of work, everything isn't going to go as smoothly as you think. So I think that'll be quite a good skill to kind of take over and almost problem solving from that side of things. What about you, Abby?
I'd say teamwork's a very obvious one, but I think it's definitely something you need when you're going into the working world. Like moving from junior rowing to uni rowing, you're having to work with like new and different people to get the best like outcome. But I think that's really helped. Like working with new people, not just the same people you're used to all the time.
Absolutely. And I guess for all of you, we hope that, you know, rowing is a lifelong sport. You can do it at all different stages of your life. What role do you see rowing sort of playing in for the rest of your life?
Well, I think as long as I enjoy the sport, then I'll continue to do it. Like I wouldn't put myself through the training if I wasn't enjoying it. But like I'll always enjoy watching the sport. I think it's really like before rowing, like I didn't really have any idea what rowing was. But now it's like once you get the bug, like you can't shake it off. You're stuck with it.
Yeah, I hope that it's gonna be in my life forever. It's like, obviously it's created a job opportunity for me, so it's huge, and I hope to stay involved with it. I don't know, maybe I will come back as a coach after I've fulfilled the rest of my careers, or like even S&C coach. But even if I can like mentor like junior athletes or something, you know, something that I can maybe put some of my experience to help others with, that would be really cool.
Yeah, like I've still got the potential to come back as a rower in years to come.
You've heard it here first.
I know. Yeah. We'll see what comes of everything. But I think obviously before quarantine and everything, I was helping out, whether it be in my old school volunteering with a little bit of coaching or at the regattas. I was also doing some commentary for some of the regattas up in Scotland. So whether or not it be something like that or coming back as a masters rower or whatever, like there's the potential to umpire as well. Like you don't really know at this point in time, but I'd hope it still stays there for the rest of the time that I'm obviously interested in the sport.
I'd say I'm the same. Like rowing's been a big part of my life since a young age, so once I stop being an athlete at some point, I know that I'm just gonna want to continue being in the sport some way. So I feel like maybe a coach or volunteer or an umpire or something might be the route for me.
Well, for those who are still rowing, as I said earlier, we hope that there's still plenty of time ahead. But you know, I think we're definitely very keen, and Maddie will take you up on that offer of if not coaching, mentoring. Sounds like a great offer. So we'll definitely pick up on that one.
Definitely.
So look, we're going to move into the last sort of section, last theme for the evening. Again, just a reminder to anyone listening in, if you want to put a question in, again, please use the Q&A function just at the bottom. But the last sort of theme that we're going to sort of cover off this evening is one that I guess all rowers at any level will deal with who are involved in competitive rowing, and that's sort of coping under pressure. And dealing with disappointment at times. You know, there's lots of highs, but there's also lots of lows as well. I'm just gonna kick off. When you're on the sort of start line, you're just getting ready to go. What's sort of going through your mind, Maddie?
Even you just saying that makes me a bit nervous. I'm not gonna lie. I sort of like, you know, you've done your warm up, and hopefully that's gone well. Even if it hasn't gone well, you know, you've prepped your body. That's it. Like the buzz is going to go off no matter what. It's going to happen. There's nothing you can do about it. So you've just got to, at that point, I just try and calm myself down, you know, breathe, relax, and then I just think about the first stroke. And then I'm sort of like, you know, first stroke and then aggression, Maddie, because that's what I struggle with off the start. I'm not like, so I just keep having to tell myself, just aggression. You want this aggression, get out. And then, so I'm just trying to keep it simple in my head though. Like, don't want to fill my head with too much stuff. Just like breathe and aggression. That's literally all I'm thinking.
And Abigail, are you the same? You know, when you were sat in the Tokyo start line last year, you were waiting for the start of the race. What were you thinking about at the time? Was that a good pressure?
At that point, it was obviously good pressure, and I was just like really happy to be where I was, and like the whole like thing, like the scenery of it was so nice as well. Like the bridge was just after the start line as well, so it was nice to look at that. Seeing all the other countries all in ones, I thought that was really cool. It was just more like that first stroke off the start that I was really focused on, just getting away as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I'd say, like when I'm sitting at the start line, like you've done you've done everything that you need to do. You just need to sort of focus and stay calm, or else you could mess up your start or something. You just need to stay calm. That's what I do anyway.
Yeah, I always found that when I was on the start line, I was never competitive as a child. I kind of got more competitive as I grew up. even like until my last couple of races, when they're doing that couple minute countdown, they're going 5 minutes, 4 minutes. I'm constantly thinking, this is going to hurt like hell. Like, that was the only thing that was going through my head.
Yeah, did you not used to like be sick a bit at the start with
Yeah,
nerves?
yeah. I used to be like ridiculously nervous, and I'd always think, oh, I don't really want to be doing this right now. But
Yeah.
then you get to the point where you think, actually, no. You've trained all this time. What the heck is the point in thinking these kind of negative thoughts? And then as soon as you start the roll call, it was really weird. It was almost as if everything just went out of the head, and then you just start thinking, right, A to B, quick as you can, let's get going, and don't wash out in the first stroke. That was the only thing that came into my head after that.
Yeah. It's definitely the point where you're like waiting. You're just sitting there waiting. That is just the worst. You're like, I wish I wasn't here. What is going on? But as soon as they like say your name or another country, you're like, right, this is it. It's happening. Let's go.
It becomes real.
Deadly silent
Yeah.
as well.
Oh yeah.
So I guess some people would say that actually a little bit of pressure is actually required. So are each of you someone who thrives off pressure, and do you think that pressure can actually help you focus and perform better?
This is like an odd one because I don't know if I do thrive off pressure or not. Because I'm not somebody who will do something crazy in a race. Like, I'm super consistent. Like, I'll do like what I've prepared to do. Like, I've trained this way. This is how I've raced in training. This is how I'm going to race now. And if it's not quick enough, it's not quick enough. So I don't know if but definitely in the way, like, pressure will bring something out of you. It will, like, there's added adrenaline, and you're likely to get a PB or go to a next level under pressure. But for me, I still try and just repeat what I've done in training. Just maybe that you might have an extra lift at the finish or off the start or something.
I feel like I'm the type that does probably thrive off pressure, because most races I leave it to the last minute if I'm going to overtake someone, which probably shouldn't do. But yeah.
Yeah, I'd say that I probably don't thrive off of pressure. Like, all of my best performances are when like I didn't think I was going to do well. For example, my 2K PB is actually one that I got in a rate cap piece. Just because like there was no pressure going into it. I wasn't expecting to PB, and then it took me like a year to even get anywhere near close to that. But yeah, I say that I'd probably I put too much pressure on myself. So I don't think I thrive off pressure at all.
Yeah, I feel as if I strive off pressure, but only like the kind of correct amount. If I put too much pressure on myself, I found kind of in my earlier years that I wasn't kind of doing the job that I expected of myself to do. So I kind of took that pressure away by just trying to keep a level head. Like, for instance, even when I was out doing UT2, as I was on a 2K course, whether it be at Strathclyde Park or even back at the river at the Clyde or over at Castle Semple, just thinking through the markers, and then every time you're doing one loop, just thinking, oh, where would I be this time, and put yourself in different positions in the race. Don't always put yourself in the first place, because like for me, I'm a bit like you, Abby. Like, I wouldn't be in the lead from the start. I would always try and make my move towards the end of the race. So yeah, it was a case of just trying to give yourself different ideas of where you'd be in a race, and then that took the pressure off of me slightly. But having the pressure there was definitely worthwhile for the races, because that G'd me up.
Especially in like time trials, when you have like somebody behind you in front of you, like you're always going to have that pressure of somebody closing in on you. So it's just like how you deal with that. Like, are you just going to sit there? Are you going to make your move to push away? Or
yeah. So I guess Gavin touched a little bit there on, I guess, some of the coping mechanisms that he would use to sort of manage that pressure. Maddie, are there any that you have kind of built into your repertoire for coping with that?
Yeah, I think the World Championships where I raced a single was definitely the point where I sort of was able to cope with things how I wanted to cope with things. I think being in a crew boat, I kind of can get influenced by how other people are feeling and reacting to situations quite a lot. And, you know, if they're getting real nervous, I'll be like, oh, okay, right, maybe I'm meant to feel, you know, this nervous. Whereas like in a single, I was like, you know what, I don't want to feel too nervous right now. Like, you know, I'll save that for a bit later. So it just let me figure out what my coping mechanisms were. A big one was like staying in the moment, you know, and to do that, I was just focused on my breathing. So not getting distracted by things going on around me, just really focusing on myself, staying in the moment each stroke that I was about to take. And also another huge thing for me is preparation. My whole day around racing is planned to the minute. Like I'll have it written in on my phone probably, like this is when I'm going to like weigh in, this is when I'm going to eat, this is when I'm going to speak to my coach, this is when I'm going to, you know, have the final toilet break, this is when I'm going to meet at the boat. Everything is planned to the T, so that sort of uncertainty, any uncertainty is taken away. And, you know, everything afterwards is planned as well. So that makes me a lot calmer and collected, and that just means I can focus solely on my performance. So that's, yeah, those are my coping mechanisms: planning and breathing.
Abigail?
Yeah, I'd say in racing, I usually just shout what I think or how it's going. That's just force out of habit. But I feel like, well, when I did the pair with Megan, it kind of pushed us both on, like shouting to like either go now or whatever.
Yeah, see, like before a race, I know that some people like to listen to music, like go away in your own little zone. I'm not one of those people. I have I have a lot of nervous energy, so I like to talk to someone, like just almost as if I'm distracting myself, so I'm not thinking too much about the race. During a race, I'd say a big one for me, like Maddie was saying, is remembering to breathe, because I struggle with that, breathing, especially like, yeah, any sort of piece, that's like a big focal point, is to breathe.
No, I agree on that. I think breathing definitely does help. But also just to touch on having like your race warm up and everything, like most of the coaches that I've had, like for instance, the University of Edinburgh, whether it be at school as well, with Glasgow Academy, Glasgow Schools, even back to Castle Semple, whenever I had a race, there would be a race plan. And if you have that race plan in your head, yes, fair enough, other boats might do their own thing. But if you execute your own race plan and your own warm up, etc., then I feel as if that also helps the nerves. Just because, you know, it's almost kind of like there to follow, and if you're following it, then you feel as if you can't really do much else to improve the performance itself.
So we've had a question in from Colin Williamson. So not many people start the sport expecting to be an international athlete. At which point in your careers did you realise it was possible, and how did that then change your approach? Maddie?
So,
you obviously started as a complete beginner at Edinburgh. I'm assuming you didn't start rowing thinking that you were going to go all the way, or did you?
No way. Like I had no idea what the process was. Honestly, that's not what I was thinking. I think when I was younger, I wanted to be really good at something and, you know, go reach the highest level. But when I started rowing, that wasn't. Distinctly remember the meeting when sort of Colin and John had decided like these guys are going to be trialists. I remember coming into this little room in the gym somewhere, I can't remember where it was, sort of crowding around, and Colin sort of showing us this PowerPoint about how to trial, and I was just like, are you kidding me? I can't do this. Like, and I think I was training really closely with Robin Hartwinks, legend, and she was always way stronger than me in the gym, way quicker than me on the rowing machine. She's an absolute powerhouse, and quicker than me on the water when we both started sculling together. And, you know, I was like, you know, this is not going to happen for me. She's so much better. And then I sort of started to edge a little bit closer, and it was just little things that I was like, okay, maybe, you know, I could do okay. We went to first trials and Robin did really well, and I did mediocre, and I was like, okay, this is maybe not for me. Then by second trials came around, I'd sort of picked up on my sculling a little bit more, and I think I ended up beating her, and I think it was at that point when I was like, okay, you know, things might start to change here, and I started to just back myself. It was one little performance that meant, all right, you know, I'm going to go for this now. I'm going to really like full throttle back myself. And that takes like coaches' help as well, like little things that they say, little confidence boosters helps. If they believe in you, you're going to believe in yourself eventually as well. So, you know, the coaches are a huge part of that.
And hopefully that having that sort of training partner, you know, in competition day in, day out, you know, you can help each other progress through the sport, because obviously Robin was in a similar position to yourself, you know, I guess.
Yeah. No, like having Robin there was honestly, I think I wouldn't have got as far as I did without her, and I think she would probably say the same towards me. Like, we were ultimate teammates, and then we were ultimate competitors as well, and we lived together as well. So it was like, we're best friends. So it was a really weird dynamic, but you sort of push each other on. And if you have 100% respect and trust in that person, it's only going to be healthy competitiveness. So, and we ended up competing at the Senior World Championships together. So that was pretty special.
So Abigail, what made you think when you were sort of, you know, growing up in your younger years at ASRA that you wanted to be making that commute from ASRA down to Boston to do GB trials? Probably one of the longest sort of commutes in the country for anyone going to trials. What was it that sort of made you think you wanted to do that?
It was mainly just when like Johnny came into ASRA, he like introduced the whole GB trials thing, because like I never knew anything about it before. He just like, he obviously got the older boys into it, the likes of Robert and Miles. Seeing them being able to do it, I was like, oh, maybe like me and Megan could be the same thing, like go to Worlds. I'd say I realised like I wanted to do it probably after Scott Champs when I was J15. It was me and Megan's second time in the pair, and then we ended up winning J16 pairs, and I was like, oh, we might have a chance when we go to GB France trials, which we did. And the whole experience was just fun when we went down there, and it was just really enjoyable, which made me want to continue doing it.
And Perry, you're obviously slightly different in that, I guess, I know you were rowing for a bit at Stirling Uni, is that right? And then obviously you're in the World Class Start program now, which is very targeted. And, you know, what was your sort of thought process and your journey?
Well, obviously this was my first year like trialing. So I got into November trials, I didn't have a clue of how I would do. I just went for it, and because I hadn't really raced against anyone, like I hadn't raced against any other under 23s of like, I guess, the same level. So I say from that point, obviously like the rest of the season got cancelled or whatever. Like from that first November trials and then getting an invitation to final trials, I sort of, that like made me realise that I'm maybe better than I think I actually am at rowing. Like it took me like to see the results from trials to be like, oh well, maybe I'm okay. But no, yeah, I talked to because obviously I'm not under 23 anymore, so just to continue to have a bit more self-confidence moving forward.
Yeah, like for me, I kind of realised it was possible to become an international athlete. I was actually standing like in this kitchen, and my mum and sister were speaking to me, and we were going through the results for GB junior trials, and it was the year before my last for junior. And it was my sister mum said, look, Gavin, like you're starting to perform quite well. And it was under Ian Summerside and Miss Massaro at that point in time. And they said, look, you could try this next year and potentially get a seat in this Junior Worlds team. And obviously, because it was meant to be in Rio de Janeiro and everything, that was all quite exciting. It was quite an influence. And at that point in time, I had a teammate who was also at the club, and we both ended up managing to train up against each other, which was really beneficial for me and for coming on. And obviously with the coaches who then decided to, like, they backed us the whole way. and then the seat racing, and then before we knew it, we were both sitting in the junior quad together, which is fantastic. And because that was when I kind of realized, like, if you really go for it and you have an ambition, then it's completely possible.
So obviously some of you have referred, I guess, to the squad environments that you're in, and obviously there's quite a bit of pressure, I guess, in being part of a squad, because although you're with your friends, there's obviously competition for places, crew selection, etc. So, how do you manage that sort of day-to-day pressure within the squad? And, how do you also cope with competing against what could be close friends, teammates for seats?
Yeah, so for me, like, I'm in the team full time now, and that is our job, is to, we're all fighting for seats, so that's why we're there. So it can be brutal, and at times, like, I do find it tough, like, to manage this one. Like, I end up sort of kind of going into my shell a little bit and not really chatting to the other girls I'm competing against, because it takes too much energy from me to make that effort, because I don't really want to speak to them when I'm competing against them. It's too hard. But then that makes it really hard for crew selection, because, like, if you're seat racing, you've got to sit in a boat with them at some point. So there does have to be a balance, and you do have to manage that well. But it is tough, a tough environment to be in at that point.
I'd say the same thing. When I was managing, like, day-to-day stress, like going down to my first under-23 trials, I'd say Lewis was a big part of it, because when it came to, like, the 2K ergo and it's, like, in front of everyone, he was just like, there's no pressure, just do your best. I think that really helped, and it did help me perform my best. For competing against friends for a seat, it is really difficult, but I think if you all just try your best, and, like, that's all you can really do. And when we were at trials last year, like, on the water, it was all competitive. Then when you come off, like, you're not even really speaking about it. You're just speaking about other stuff, so it's not awkward at all.
Yeah, I find this quite hard as well. Because like Maddie was saying, it's almost as if you have to try hard when you're off the water to try and, like, not be nice, but, like, just to, like, hold a conversation. It's like, it's just awkward for everyone, I feel. No, I find that probably something I need to work on. I feel like off the water especially, you just need to learn to not talk about rowing. Like, I feel like if you're off the water talking about your race, your rowing, then that's just, the pressure just gets a bit too much. Like, you just need to talk about something else. Like, rowing is for on the water.
Yeah, I think that's the main thing is, I mean, everyone's friends. It's not personal when it comes to racing. Obviously, I'm not going to row to make sure that the next person beside me does well at rowing. I'm doing rowing for myself. As bad as it sounds, like, that's what you're training for, to try and become the best rower you are. So yeah, no, it's good though, because, for instance, I've been in situations where you can get some people who get quite riled up with their seat racing. Maybe they don't want to speak. Maybe they get a little bit almost rude off the water or something like that. And that's just what it is. You don't make it personal, because you know you're going to be pals at the end of it. Whereas on the other scale of things, like at trials last year, I was going up to the this is final trials. I was going up to the start of the A final. Everyone's chatting, and I'm sitting there thinking, this is the weirdest situation. Like, nobody seems stressed. But as soon as you get on that stake boat, obviously everything goes silent. You say your good lucks and everything, but then you're in it for yourself. You go out, try and do the best you can. You know, as soon as you cross that finish line, everything's going to be fine, and everyone's pals. So it is what it is.
Yeah. No, it sounds like you've all got a good grasp of that. So we're going to finish with quite a challenging question this evening, and one that people don't often like talking about. But all of you have had plenty of successes in the sport today, lots of highs. But equally, what a lot of people won't realise, that you've also had some disappointments, some dark days as well. What has been the sort of biggest disappointment that you've had to deal with in your rowing career so far, and how have you gone about bouncing back from that disappointment?
So my one is, I think, very recently. basically at final trials in the final, I sort of messed up the first half and I ended up getting beaten. Well, I came fourth in the end. So the top two girls had pretty much secured their place in the double. We're talking about this time. And then it was sort of against me and another girl sort of for like the reserve spot / the single at Worlds again. And I'd beaten her in the first two races. So it was the final race and she beat me by a second because I had a shocker in the first half. And then we were basically race one-on-one to see who was going to get that spot for either the reserve spot or the single. And then everything got locked down. So they quickly made a decision about the team, and basically I got dropped. They were like, okay, last race is the last race. We're picking this other girl. And that was that. So I was like, right, cool. That's potentially my rowing career over. From, something that I stupidly did, and it happens and you just have to take it. Like that was bad performance and that was on me. I didn't put my full thing out there, so that happened. And then this huge decision has come of it. And, now we're locked down and, what's happening with rowing, I was really confused. Anyway, so they took all these decisions back. So suddenly I was back in the game. We're going way back to trials, way before final trials now. Suddenly I'm back in the game and I'm like, right, well, literally I was thinking about maybe stopping rowing like yesterday and now I'm back. So I had to completely flip my mindset about it. Suddenly gone from one thing, being super disappointed, potentially that's a career finishing performance, to suddenly having this second opportunity. And I had to think about it like that. I couldn't be like, oh my God, another year of this stress. What if this happens again? What if I do this terrible performance that's going to kill me again? I can't go through these emotions. So I couldn't think about it like that because I couldn't have come back. So I had to be like, right, Maddie, this is a second opportunity. This stuff doesn't happen often. We don't have a world pandemic that's going to give you a second opportunity again. So you have to look at it positively and, get back on the boat at some point, get back on the horse, and we go again. So it took me like a bit of time to get my head around it, but I think that's important. If something bad happens to you, you take a bit of time to think about it, but you can't dwell on it for too long. It just only make you really upset. You have to try and like process it and then park it and think about how we were going to move on from here and how I'm going to use that performance in a positive way instead of a negative way. So that's the process I'm doing now. So obviously I don't want it to happen again, but I want to be able to build on it and take it into, this this second chance that I've sort of been given. Yeah.
Well, thank you for your honesty in that. Abigail?
I'd say my mindset's very the same as Maddie's for like having to get over the disappointment, but I'd say my disappointment's probably at Nat schools last year. Like it was me and Megan's final year at ASRA, like trying to get a medal there because we hadn't got one before and obviously we didn't get it. It was really disappointing, but I think we were just both like, it was in the middle of exams. We already had a lot of stress anyways. So we just said we need to work on the next thing, which was final trials, I think. And obviously we did quite well and managed to get the pair to Worlds. So if you just refocus. What, sorry?
Just quite well. Just did quite.
Like you can't fix or change a race that's just happened. You need to move on to it and think about the next one. I think that's just the main key, really.
Yeah, I'd say for me, I took this and I thought of like injuries that I've had. Well, my first sort of what major injury was like December 2018 time. I'd badly hurt my lower back, and I spent I probably took a month, 2 months out of rowing, and I had to completely sort of leading up to that point, my technique was not very good. Like my core strength was I literally had no core strength. I think that played a big part in, well, that was the reason why I got injured. So I had to completely, didn't erg, didn't row at all. And then I had to completely rebuild the rowing stroke, essentially. I had to, like, it went from single strokes to like a minute on, minute off type thing. I feel like my coming back from that, like, because I spent so much time on like the little, like on my, spending so much time working on my core, like I feel like I came out a much better athlete on the other side. Like although that, like during that time, because that was my first like experience of being injured, I found it really difficult. But because of that, like I feel like I benefited from it almost. Like I feel like I row a lot better now because of it. Like I have some core strength. I feel like during that time I really struggled, but I feel like I'm better now because of it.
Yeah, I'd probably say like my biggest disappointment, it's actually two events that have taken place over the last 2 years, and it's the exact same result I got on both of them. And that was, I was in the semi-finals of my last 223 Worlds, and I missed my spot in the A final by 0.2 of a second on each of these occasions, first in the double, and then secondly in the single. And it was so painful because of how close it was. And in particular, on the last race I had back in Sarasota, we were both coming up to the last 250 meters, and there was 3 boats abreast. And the Cypriot then took off, and it was between myself and an American. And we come up to the line, and there's those 2 close beeps. And I was adamant after 2 years ago that it wasn't going to happen again. And the 2 beeps happened, and I was praying that I was on the correct side of it. And then all of a sudden I heard the British supporters in the grandstand start to shout with like joy and everything. And over the tannoy, they'd been told that I had got the last qualifying spot. But then I looked over at the bank and none of the coaches were celebrating. So I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, what the heck is going on here? This is horrible. And I say to the American guy, I'm like, do you know who took it? Suffice to say, I rolled back to the pontoon, and my coach at the time came down and he went, you missed out. They said it incorrectly over the speaker system at the course, like you got 4th. And obviously that was so depressing for me because I let the exact same thing happen that happened to me 2 years ago. So it was the words of my first rowing coach actually that came back to me, and he always said, you're only as good as your next race. And I went out with the exact same mentality back in 2018, exact same mentality in 2019, and the next day went out and just absolutely went for it in the B final and managed to get a win in both of those B finals. The first time, obviously, in the lightweight double with James Temple, and then the second time in my single. But obviously, if you end up thinking, oh, I'm down in the dumps because I haven't done well, you're not going to do well in your next race. You really have to just start fresh, and just take every race that it is. But that was how I kind of got through that disappointment.
Well, look, thank you everyone for your honesty in that. And as I say, it's not always easy talking about those situations, but I think it's good also to reflect as well and be proud of the decisions that you have made. I'm just going to sort of wrap everything up just now. I just want to say a big thanks to all of our panel this evening. I'm sure everybody at home will be really appreciative for opening up and giving us a good insight into what your lives are like, both from a rowing perspective and outside of rowing as well. It goes without saying you're all a sort of credit to the Scottish rowing, have been and continue to be a credit, and we hope you continue to stay involved in sport in whatever capacity that is going forward. All the athletes, I think, are all on social media as far as I'm aware, so I'm sure if you have any additional questions, I'm sure they'll be happy to sort of take those through social media. Thanks to everybody at home who sort of tuned in as well this evening. We will send a copy of the recording out as well if there's anything that comes up that you want to check back up on. Our next Q&A session in the series will be in a fortnight's time. Delighted that I'm able to confirm that Dame Katherine Granger will be joining us, and we'll be looking back through her career and her memories of her time in Scotland and with Scottish rowing. So until that point, stay safe and well, and enjoy the good weather, and while it lasts, and we'll see you all soon. Thanks again.
Keep on. Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye now.